Hey everyone. So as I had said before in the first video, it was really about laying the foundation of how Sacred Star started to come about. Even though at that time I didn't have obviously a name or was guided to use a name for Sacred Star. It was more about the start of my healing journey and how it started. So moving on from 2012 was the depression, and 2013, after having the hysterectomy and being guided to some beautiful healers in Papamoa, and then starting to get the help that I needed to start to shift some of the accumulation of unresolved trauma and unresolved stuff from childhood through into my relationships, into just life in general, just everything that I had picked up along the way, hadn't dealt with it, had shoved it to the back, and just kept going forward as you do, because I had a young family, I have 6 children, and I was on my own, and it was a choice I had made. After a failed relationship, I took my kids and I was like, that's it. Raise them, do what I can. And it was all about my children. And anything that I guess in regards to unresolved trauma, it had been pushed to the back because it was more about day to day. It was more about just surviving, really. That's what everything was about. It was about surviving. Um, So, um, so anyway, 2013 started this beautiful healing journey, and then met a beautiful healer who became a teacher to me. And so, I guess one of the beautiful things about life is that sometimes when we are not feeling in a good place or struggling, if you're around people or you come across beautiful people on your journey that say to you that they can see you or they recognize you underneath all the layers, then really, like, just I want to say, just take that, because through our journey, when you do come across people that can see you beneath everything else and believe in you, then that's huge. I mean, that's a win. And you need to be able to take it because it helps. Because sometimes all it takes is for other people to see in us what we cannot see in ourselves yet, or don't know how to see it in ourselves because we've got too much stuff piled up on top of us from whatever we've accumulated throughout life that we can't even see ourselves anymore. So I had this beautiful teacher, and he believed in me, and he could see, and I'm getting goosebumps because he's probably like, yes. Yeah, you can feel it over here. He's probably like, yes. So he could see me. It makes me feel a bit emotional, actually. Um, and and when I think about him, because he's no longer here, but when I do think about him, I can also I do remember there's a few things that he had said to me during this time that obviously he could see what was going to happen. A couple of years on from that time that he first came into my life. So something I remember him saying to me was asking me if I chose and wanted to do this work, as in getting into the nitty gritty of things that I had tucked away very deeply. And also there was a question the way he had said it, it was like he was asking me, like, it was like stepping up into the work of into the role of a light worker, I guess, really. And those weren't the words I used, but I guess at the end of the day, really, that's what the question was. Are you ready to do this? Do you want to do this? Because you have a choice. And for me, it felt right. It felt right. And that's what I wanted to do. It felt like if I chose not to do it, it was not going to go away for me. So I said yes. And so anyway, he worked with me. And how I got through the depression stuff there was a lot of beautiful healing that took place. There was a lot of removing old stuff through energy. And there was also a lot of work that I had to do, as in forgiveness, revisiting old stuff, forgiving people from my past, recognizing the lessons and things like that. Not blame game, not putting the blame on everybody else, but recognizing the roles that they played throughout my life and recognizing why they came into my life and recognizing the learnings, which isn't always easy because sometimes we just want to blame someone else and not really face the truth of it or really underneath it why they played that particular role in our life. So from there, I also would, every night I would go to bed and he gave me this beautiful big clear quartz crystal. It was a big one. I've still got it. It's about that big. And I would put it on my tummy every night when I'd go to sleep. And I would see a lot of things. So spirit was showing me a lot of things and helping me to remember other lifetimes. I guess they were wanting me to remember who I was, and so they showed me a lot. And so I saw lots of beautiful things, so many beautiful things. And then he would ask me things and he would question and he'd get me to answer and not say I don't know, because that's what I'd normally do because I was too shy to share what I had seen and thought would I sound crazy, but he believed in me. So I was very fortunate for that time that I had him in my life. And it wasn't a long time either because he ended up not being here for long. But there was a question he used to ask me. And I've thought about it lately. And the question it was around faith and it was around eternal life, and it was around believing that life never ended. And the question he used to ask me, and I never really thought about it at the time, but in my mind, I remember I used to think, please don't ever let that happen, and would pray like, please. And he said to me, do you have enough faith? If you were to lose one of your children, do you have enough faith to know that life continues? And so I said yes. And then in the back of my mind, I'm like, please don't. Like, oh my gosh, that's just, it's like it's something no parent ever wants, right? You don't ever want to go through that. Anyway, so moving forward, 2013, yep, getting through it. 2014 in a really great space. 2014, I went and did horticulture, studied horticulture. End of 2014, the boys in my class said to me, oh, you should be doing florist work, like floristry with flowers. They said, Lisa, you should be doing floristry because all you want to do is grow flowers, because I love plants. So I went off from horticulture and I started florist training work in 2015, started 2015. So I went into florist training, and I was in that training for 3 weeks. And then one of my sons passed away in a car accident. And so when that happened, I stopped the florist training and went through the grief. And well, it's really a funny thing to even say went through the grief, because grief is such a wave that you just you don't even know if you're going through it or what's going on. You're just riding out, day to day. And for me, it wasn't just me. There were also 5 others, which were my 5 other children that needed me. So I guess, and something I think about sometimes too is when you are, which is going to sound a little bit funny, but when you are somebody that understands or knows of the word be, you have the understanding, the spiritual understanding, and then you go through something like this. So you're dealing with the emotions, the physical and the emotions and all of that. But then at the same time, it felt like I was flitting from understanding it on a spiritual level and then coming back into the physical and the human emotions, which may sound a little bit hard to understand, but that's how it felt for me at the time. I felt like I was flitting. And I guess from the outside, some people couldn't understand. Like they thought that you're doing really well, but really my heart was broken. Like when you lose a child, it's such a deep wound. It's a wound that'll never, ever fully heal. Well, that's what I believe. So this was, if we go back into 2012 with the depression, and then 2013, the healing journey. And even when my son passed, even then I felt like, and it was something I felt and I believed, they had been preparing me for this time, for that time. They had prepared me with the getting rid of all that other old stuff. I was being prepared for what was next. I truly, truly believe that. Because if I hadn't of started that healing and clearing out all the old stuff, then when my son passed, I would have, I probably wouldn't even be here. I would not have coped. So leading into the name, Sacred Star. So anyway, there's a lot more, like that stuff that was going on. There was a lot of things. In fact, I will share with you at some point some of the things that came up after my son passed and what I had seen, what he showed me, and what was also confirmed in a healing session that I went to in regards to the depression that I have had in this lifetime. And there is a link between that, and there was a link to my son from another lifetime. But we'll do that in another video because the rest will be here all night. But in the meantime, the name Sacred Star. So after my son passed, 4 months after, so I stopped the florist training, and then I went into, 4 months later, I went into sports massage training. So I went into that, and then didn't really have a name, but all the signs were there, and I was missing the signs, and it was like, what's this name gonna be? My son would visit me in dreams and point to the stars and make patterns in the sky. So there were all these little signs, and truthfully, well, all of this is truthfully anyway. I ain't talking rubbish. I only talk truth. What happened was we saw so many shooting stars following that year after he passed, the year after. Myself, my children would always see shooting stars. So the name Sacred Star, my dad had been visiting me. He was watching the TAB racing, watching the racing on TV. We were getting ready to go out, and I went to turn the TV off, and the horse they called up to race was Sacred Star. And I went, oh, hey, that's interesting. So that's how the name, so the dreams with the stars,